So about this Jada, August, and Will situation. Oh yeah. Oh, y'all had your opportunity? Now it is my go. Let's get into it.
Yo, it is time that we talk. Yep, there's so much going on, so much being seen, heard, and felt, but what's missing is perspective. Yep, and your fave, your boy CYO, is here to provide the space, the opportunity for you to weigh in. And with that, we're gonna touch on some of our other joys. That's music, fitness, pop culture, mixed with a little bit of foolery. Yeah, the CYO podcast, our perspective, our show. Let's get into it.
Now, before we get into the actual discussion, a few housekeeping notes. Today, I'm recording a podcast on video. So for the first time, fingers crossed, if everything goes well, this podcast will not only be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, things of that nature, but we'll also have an opportunity to see it on YouTube, okay? Now, for my YouTube viewers, this should be your first podcast, okay? You guys are checking out my setup. As you can see, I have my money tree here. Why? Because I'm a new plant dad, okay? Super excited about this because I'm a real dad in real life, but my kids are growing up, and I was debating, like, I want a puppy. I actually want 2 more kids, but I'm a single man, not trying to do that by myself. So the next thing was a pet. And I was looking at a puppy, but I'm super busy because I gotta do, the podcast, I do the dance fitness, I have my hands in a few things, right? So I'm like, yo, I need something else where I'm being intentional, okay? I'm opting in to be responsible. And this is where my money tree comes in, okay? Also, from what I understand, if I do a good job at taking care of it, it's gonna help improve the quality of my air in the house. So just all kind of benefits. I'm becoming more responsible and I get to breathe a little bit better, okay? But anyway, so to the topic at the table, on the table, around the table, in the world, Craig, this feels like a hot topic that everybody is talking about, which is kind of somewhat of a problem because we have bigger issues going on, right? We're still trying to arrest the cops who shot and killed Breonna Taylor. We still are hoping and fighting for systemic change in the U.S. government as it pertains to race relations and all type of things, socioeconomic issues. We have a presidential race at hand. So a lot of more important things to discuss. However, this situation with Jada and Will is top of the list. Now here's the thing. Social issues are very important because, believe it or not, what Will and Jada is going through, how people are processing it, is all tied into the issues that deals with racism. Now, or comes as a result of racism. I do have plans on unpacking that because I know it may seem like I just reached just now on that statement. But I promise you, I kid you not, it's all related, okay? We'll talk about it later on. Now, this Will and Jada situation, just to make sure that my thoughts are coherent, I have a few talking points right here on a MacBook. Also, I would like to explain. This topic is from my opinion, okay? I'm also a firm believer that you can be mad at a situation and not mad at people. Saying that to say make it make sense. You can judge a situation and not judge the people. Okay? So I'm inviting you guys to do the same today as we unpack the situation with Will and Jada. I'm asking you to wear your hat that judges the situation objectively, but not the people. Because behaviors exist outside of people. They do work, right? And the people own their behaviors, but I feel like behaviors can be assessed and judged independently. It's when those behaviors turn into patterns and they are repeated behaviors that they then are tied to character, which is tied to the person. That's another podcast, okay? let's get into it. So first of all, I want to set the record straight. Your boy, CYO Brown, I support Will and Jada. I sure do. I like everything about this conversation. I've been a supporter of Will and Jada. I also believe that what they're doing is needed for the culture. What culture am I speaking of? Black culture, American culture. I think there's a direct benefit of what we witnessed for black people and those who are non-black that often spectate and want to participate in our culture. Okay? Here's why. Will and Jada is one of a few black examples of love and marriage. Okay? And one of the things that I like about what's going on right now is I'm a realist. I am not a fan of this current trend where people like to depict and convey love as being perfect. And there's a lot of conversation about how, people, oh my God, I just saw a post on Instagram where this guy did this video, a young guy, about 10 ways you know if somebody is not supposed to be in your life. And he described 10 ways that people who should be in your life would behave. And I watched that video, I'm like, my God, clearly you are young because you do not understand that even your favorite people will get on your nerves. We have this misconception that when it comes to the relationships we get to opt into, we feel like they should be just easily expendable. But I need you to understand, when you transfer these same concepts about evaluating whether or not someone deserves to be in your life, should be in your life, if you were to apply those concepts to people and relationships that you feel aren't expendable, like family or relatives, it wouldn't make sense. You can't say things like, if you leave a relationship drained, then that person is not meant to be in your life. Okay, let's apply that to your mama. On the days when your mama get on your nerves and you feel like mama just sucked every bit of life out of me when she was holding me accountable about a situation, or wanting to talk about my future, or wanting to talk about how I behaved in a family situation. Again, it may seem like a reach, but we have to be very mindful about these concepts that we apply to love because they're very unrealistic. Even our favorite people will do things that get on our nerves. In my opinion, love is about compatibility and chemistry, and when those things intersect. And I feel like Will and Jada have been a very good example of that up until now, because one of the things that I question about their connection is the chemistry. Okay? I think at first chemistry was there, but as time evolved, the chemistry is starting to fade away, and it's more about compatibility. Same interests, things making sense for the best interest of them and their family, the kids, us, other black people who need examples of love and relationship as a point of reference. I think Will and Jada understand that, which is one of the reasons why I support them, okay? I also support the fact that they decided to address this issue. I think it was important. Jada spoke about it on the Red Table Talk. She said, despite the more important topics going on right now, running away from issues like this bleeds into and lean into some of the current behaviors that have created the current problems that we're dealing with, which is not being honest, not being forthcoming, being non-confrontational, meaning they don't want to confront the issue. So the fact that she took the opportunity to do that was demonstrating healthy behaviors that we need to apply to issues like racism, right? And patriarchy, and classism, and police brutality. We need to be able to confront these issues and not live in the shadows of them, okay? Again, it may seem like a reach, but every opportunity is an opportunity. Does that make sense? Every opportunity is an opportunity for you to show and prove and live by example, okay? I appreciate the fact that they're being transparent. letting us know what it is while doing it on their own terms. What do I mean by that? The fact that they even talked to the issue. The fact that Jada even confirmed that her and August had a relationship is very transparent. She didn't have to do that. Matter of fact, Boosie, the rapper Boosie in a recent interview said they could have easily addressed this issue with a formal press release, Instagram post, social media post, and kept it pushing. Much like how Beyonce and Jay-Z did with their situation in the elevator. I agree, they could have. But I think the fact that Jada actually sat down at the table and unpacked it a little bit was upstanding of her. Because one, considering her brand right now is built around addressing like social issues and things of that nature at the red table, I think it makes sense, right? I'm really keen on artists and entertainers and public figures putting their issues whenever they do decide to address them, either be within their art. So Beyonce often addresses her issues in her music. Jada is now a talk show host. It only makes sense for her to do it at the table, when in fact, the table is about addressing issues like the one she's going in. So I appreciate the transparency. I also appreciate the fact that they did it on their own terms. What do I mean by that is, as spectators, those who buy into the brand, those who buy into the public figures, we feel like we often can make it seem as if these people are obligated to share their innermost secrets, every aspect of their life. They're not obligated, man. Jada has a job to get on that talk show and facilitate episodes and topics that involve other people. Anytime it pertains to her, if she wants to offer that information, by all means, sister, we appreciate it. But if she feels like, you know what, this is private, I don't want to deal with this issue in front of you guys, she reserved that right. And I've been hearing a lot of commentary about, yo, people feel like if she's going to do it, she needs to do it in this way. Nah, man, that's not in her contract. And as one who aspires to expand my platform, I want to set the record straight. I want to talk about, as it pertains to me, what I feel comfortable talking about. If it's information about me personally, I do not feel comfortable talking about it, I will not, because that's not my profession, that's not my position. I objectively talk about issues that we all opt into. What I mean by that, I have email, I have posts on my social media where we as in the creators, we agree upon topics. That doesn't mean that everything that CYO does is going to be on the table. Why? For a list of reasons. But saying that to say, I appreciate the transparency, but on their terms, okay? Also, they were brave, Will and Jada, very brave to air out the situation on a national syndicated program, okay? For one, if you saw the episode of the Red Table Talk, you can see how super uncomfortable it was. Matter of fact, I talked to a good friend, and she told me, she was like, yo, I felt like it was cringy. And I understood that because it was very uncomfortable to watch. However, it was so needed. To me, Will and Jada, again, they are an example of black love, culturally speaking. Will and Jada had that very uncomfortable conversation that I feel like every child, whether you be an adult child or adolescents or teenagers, need to witness their parents or any guardian or leader in their family have. Because conflict resolution is taught at home first, guys. You need to be able to have examples of what it means to resolve conflict in your most intimate space. And it starts with parents or godparents or grandparents, aunties and uncles. So to me, what Will and Jada did was a good example of how husband and wife can fall into a situation and they have to address it, even when it's uncomfortable, because that's what conflict resolution is about. That's what healthy confrontation looks like. It looks like that. It's not going to feel comfortable. The body language, the nonverbal communications was super loud, but I was here for it, man. I was here for it. I love the fact that as they discuss the topic, you can see clearly Will and Jada were not in agreement about a few things. Will called her out on the entanglement, the infamous entanglement. And she had to remind them, yes, it was an entanglement. By definition, it was an entanglement. You can tell that Will felt the way about him providing support. He was like, yo, I feel like the husband at a press conference that's speaking out to help you against your transgressions. Jada turned around and said, yo, I don't look at it as a transgression. I look at it as something that is super necessary. I've grown from it. I love every bit about the disagreement, yet they still supported one another. Although they disagreed, Will still, as a husband, as a man, stood there and supported his wife. Loved it. Although his eyes showed that, yo, listen, I'm not liking this, but sometimes you gotta do things you don't like, especially in love. Contrary to the super dreamy, romanticized version of love, in relationship, sometimes you have to dig deep and do things you don't like for the person who you love. Because it's not always about feelings, baby. Feelings are fickle, they come and they go. They're seasonal. You gotta push through, okay? Another topic is, I talked about the representation, right? How this is an example of what love looks like. 20 plus years. It's not beautiful. This thought that imperfect people as humans individually, right? We are flawed, period. On period, cool. We are flawed. So when you take two individuals who are imperfect, despite them caring and loving about one another, and you put them within a union for 20 plus years, yes, things will happen. And again, I'm so in love with the example that they provided that, yo, stuff happens. Over a course of 20 years, people lie, people cheat, people fall out of love, meaning they don't like one another, but they respect the agreement, which is legally bonded and for many spiritually bonded. And the reason why that agreement exists is because things will change, but one thing you still have to stay committed to is the commitments that you made. Things will change. One thing you still need to honor is the legal agreement you made. Things will change. One thing you still need to honor is the spiritual agreement you made. Unless you guys come to an agreement to end it. But again, this is despite circumstances. This is despite feelings. So again, this is a representation of what real love looks like. Okay? Matter of fact, let's talk about real love. Because I feel like, people going, CYO, I don't feel like that's love. Now, I understand all of my viewers are not Christians. All of my viewers are not governed by religious and or spiritual beliefs. I respect that, right? But there's a definition in Webster for love. Okay, and we can look at that too, because I'm one of those people. Some people think I'm petty for this, but no, I'm really keen on defining words so we can make sure that we use them correctly. Now, for those who are Christians, okay, like myself, because everybody's welcome at this table, let's refer to what love is defined as in the Bible. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoice in truth. It always protects, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Okay? So, what that speaks to is, while in love, okay, this is how you demonstrate love, right? Because love is action oriented. Sometimes we meet the goal of love, which is honoring these actions that we need to hit in order to be loving. Sometimes we drop the ball. Sometimes we honor certain aspects of love while not honoring other aspects of love, okay? However, again, outside of love, because when we get married or we decide to be in relationship with another person, the benefit of relationship is not just to receive love. There's a benefit in partnership. There's support, right? There's the business aspect of it, investment. There's development, growth, right? That comes from the support that you get from one another, which is why things are legal. Relationships can be legally bonded, because once you make those investments and you decide to merge your lives, it should be protected, right? And that's despite the feeling aspect of the love, right? So let's take a quick look at the Webster definition of love, because I don't want to just, come across spooky spiritual. For my matter of fact people, like, don't hit me with that Bible stuff, CYO. Give me the real. Let's do it. What is love by definition? In Webster, the trusted, dusted Webster. Pulling it up. Bear with me. Thank you for being patient. We need to get into this, man. So, love, a strong affection for another arising out of kinship and personal ties. Attraction based on sexual desire, affection and tenderness felt by lovers. Affection based on admiration. Come on, let's scroll with it, Webster. Assurance of affection. So you get what I'm saying, guys. Is it, to me, choosing to see this relationship through, despite the setbacks, despite the transgressions, despite, the disagreements? That's an example of love persevering, okay? That's an example of love not keeping record, as we stated. Also, judgment. So I have an issue. I've been watching a lot of commentary by some of my favorite podcasters, media personalities, and I feel like it's a lot, man. Don't get me wrong. I believe in holding Jada accountable. I believe in holding Will accountable, August accountable, but I say do it out of love. Be kind, man. Understand that we all go through different, things in life. And think about when it's your turn. When you do some fugazi and it's time for people to be like, yo, what happened? Think about how you would want to be treated. And hearing people call Jada savage, saying, just making jokes about the sex that she had and how Will looks bad and how Will let somebody blow his wife back out. Man, listen, I think it's out of order. And I understand that some people, as it pertains to having a position in media, wanting to brand themselves as being raw and uncut, you don't have to. People trying to make, people like Wendy Williams, much love and respect to her who has built her brand, but building your brand is intentional. You can decide who you want to be in this space as being a commentator. You don't have to decide to be somebody that makes a brand off of tearing other people down. Having no remorse, no consideration of their feelings. You don't have to be that person. Here at the CYO podcast, we are not doing that, man. I don't support it. So saying that to say, you can judge the situation, figure out whether or not it's something that you would engage in, whether or not something, it would be something that you feel like, it's not a good fit for me. Excuse me. However, respect the fact that Will and Jada separated, legally speaking, allowed themselves room to date, and she got into a relationship with somebody while they were separated. Let's take it a step further. Even if they decided, right, to have an open relationship, they reserve the right to have that. And you reserve the right to have an opinion about it. However, how you share your opinion is my issue. If you don't want to be perceived as an ugly person or somebody who's condemning, then don't present yourself as such. You can say that, yo, I don't like what happened. I don't think it's a good fit for me, without talking down on these people. You can say, yo, I see they were in an open relationship. That's not necessarily something I would participate in, and still get the point across. But let's also not oversynthesize, fill in the gaps, and receive what was shared. Will and Jada shared that they were separated. Will and Jada have shared that they are in a lifelong partnership, not a marriage. That's what they gave us. Out of respect, that's what I'm going to run with. So if that's a lifelong partnership without context or definition, yo, that ain't my business. I'm gonna go with what y'all gave me. If y'all were separated, whether or not they divorced, when you are separated, many states require you to legally separate. Some a matter of 1 year, some a matter of 2 years before you can file a divorce. During that period, because you can't get a divorce, what you do is you break the agreement that you made spiritually and mutually, which means that you get to define how you get to move in that space. And if you guys are allowed to date and have sex with other people because the formal agreement of being together and exclusive is no longer existing, you reserve that right. Some people like to look at it as, well, you were legally separated, but you weren't, you didn't get a divorce, so you can't date other people. According to who? Who set these rules? You can't set these rules for other people. Okay? Again, the legal component of a marriage is a legal component that protects assets and investments. The spiritual component or the social component, where the two people agree, they reserve the power to enter and leave that relationship on whatever terms they decide. Okay? Moving on. We have the double standard.